Hello and welcome to ASMR Chess. One of the best ASMR artists out there, in my mind at least, is the Queen, Gibi. I especially enjoy her questionnaires, where she just asks you a bunch of questions. Not sure why, but that really helps my mind wander. But I was very happy the other day when I saw in my subscription feed that Gibi made a video on chess, because Gibi does excellent ASMR and I love chess. I'm sure that comes as a big surprise for you. Then I'll encourage you to go watch the video. I did, it's excellent. It's cozy, it's casual. She has, I think her husband, Ben, in there as well, and they are playing chess and having a good, relaxing time. It's top quality ASMR, if you ask me. And they are both beginners, and I think their game was very instructive, and that, if studied, could teach us a lot about not just what to do and what not to do, but also about how we can make it easy for ourselves, how we can get in the right headspace, think about the relevant moves, and not get distracted by our prejudice and our feelings. You know, chess is best played from a starting point of a tranquil mind. So what I did is I wrote down the game, I analyzed it, and I'm going to show you my findings here. And I'll talk briefly about each move and why I think it's good or bad and what we can learn from it. So, with the white pieces, we have Gibi, and with the black pieces, we have Ben. And they were a little confused as to who goes first. If you are confused, let me calm you down. It's white. It's always white that goes first in chess. Gibi opened up with e4. This is an absolutely perfect move. This is the kind of move that a world champion would also play. It is best by test, according to chess legend and world champion Bobby Fischer. Why is this a good move by Gibi? Well, it does a lot of things. It takes control of two squares here in the center, and that's an important area of the board. That's actually the most important area of the board. So if you can take control of that, it will help you out tremendously. Particularly these 4 squares. You control the flow of the game if you control these squares. But also, this pawn move opens up for the queen to come out and for the bishop to come out along this diagonal. Maybe it would like to go here, which is an excellent square for the bishop, because here it points to f7, the weakest square in black's position. So in one move you open up 2 good pieces and you take control of the center. Very nice. Ben answers in kind with e5. That does exactly the same. And here we see the first, should we say, questionable decision from Gibi. And she later regretted it and said actually that it was not what she had intended. She played g4, and later she said she wanted the pawn to go here, which is a much better move, and I would recommend that. Because if you put the pawn on that square, then you can put the bishop in here in what is known as the fianchetto position, and it will attack the long diagonal. You can get the knight out and castle your king away here, and the light squared bishop will take control and defend the light squares around the king, while the pawns defend the dark squares. So you are completely defended here. So that is recommended. It is known as the fianchetto setup. You can also fianchetto this bishop over here along this diagonal. Also a very popular strategy. You can even do both. Fianchetto is French, I think it means flank. Something like flank attack or something. Not completely sure. Anyways, Gibi did play g4 instead of g3. And this move it's a bit questionable. But it's not punished. We just see the attempt at a fianchetto configuration from black's side over here. And at this point, actually Gibi would get a nice little advantage by just playing d4 here, opening up this bishop along this diagonal, and also just really fighting for the center here, because this move opened up the diagonal, and we will learn a lot about the dangers of opening up diagonals in this game. Because the first question, of course, you ask is, why can't black just take that pawn if he had chosen to do that? And maybe that is why Gibi didn't do that. Because usually we are told it's bad to just develop your queen so early. You're supposed to have the queen be one of the last pieces to develop into the game. The reason is that it can be kicked around while your opponent develops their pieces, and you will lose a lot of time. But remember the diagonal. So this particular counter strategy that would punish the early queen development So therefore, Gibi can afford to play the very good move d4, taking control of the center here. Look how these pawns control all of these 4 squares. So that was definitely an option. Instead, Gibi did something that I also like. Although not quite as strong in this particular position, the idea is very, very good. Develop the bishop on this particular square, because in this particular square it attacks that particular square, f7. And that's delicious. Actually so delicious that I might just eat a little bit of orange here, like this mini orange. Also listen to this. Let's have the pleasure. And also they're delicious. Well, Ben replied with the knight out here. This is a questionable sort of move, because it's not clear exactly why the knight wants to go here. It attacks this, but it's defended nicely by the queen. And also there is a saying that you should learn if you are a chess beginner. And that saying is, a knight on the rim is dim. Or in Danish, en springer på randen på spannen. It basically means that knights are not as good on the side of the board because they lose mobility there. Like this knight, even if all squares were empty, would only have 1, 2, 3, 4 possible squares it could go to. Whereas, say, a knight on this square would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it would also make a cool pattern of arrows. So it's actually twice as effective in theory. So that's the sort of theoretical explanation why you wouldn't want, in most cases, your knight on the rim, unless you have a very particular reason. But Gibi was concerned with this, and probably because she lacks confidence, because she's a novice chess player, she's a beginner. So she thought, okay, I have to do something about that. But you don't necessarily have to do something about your opponent's moves. The first thing, of course, you ask yourself is, what is my opponent's plan? But then you ask yourself, is it a good plan? Or can I just forget about that and do something more forceful myself? Gibi in this position played f3 to be absolutely sure that this was defended. And I mean, if you wanted to defend that, I would very strongly recommend defending it like this, because there is a difference, you see. And the difference is, with this move, you have all of a sudden made a lot of pawn moves around your king here. Around your king here. And if you remember the diagonals we were talking about, the diagonals can be very tricky and dangerous. And this one here allows a check from the queen. There's actually no good way to counter that. So let's say the queen just says check. You would have to move probably here. And even though this is not the end of the game by any means, it means that now you can no longer castle. You can never castle. And the king is just, you know, black can start focusing their attack on this square. So I think what's happening here is that Gibi is not being aggressive because she doesn't have the confidence to say, I deserve to win this game. I should win this game. I have made no serious errors. There's no reason I, as white, you remember white has the opening advantage because they start with the first move. There's no reason that I should be defending already. So she makes a defensive move against basically a non-threat that opens up a different venue of attack for her opponent. Her opponent Ben, who misses the check and plays a different move. That's a pretty strong move. But of course, I would have liked to see the check. Then you could always play f5 later. And Gibi develops her knight. And this is in accordance with some very sound advice, which would be develop your pieces and castle early. Now she has developed 2 pieces and she's ready to castle. But it also sort of violates some principles. If you have moved a lot of pawns, you should consider very carefully, if you want to castle on that side of the board. Because usually, and Gibi mentions this, it is safer to have the pawns near the king, where they can act as a wall in the castle. That's why you call it castle. So I like some of the thinking in knight e2, and I dislike some of the thinking. Also, there is a concrete problem. Also, this check is still good. Like maybe she was thinking that now she could block here. Concretely, however, because black played f5, it runs into this small tactic. It's called attacking the pinned piece. If you want to learn more about these concepts, I have a ton of videos on my channel. But basically this knight can't move because it is pinned, as it's called, to the king. So it will be captured by this less valuable pawn. And you can't even recapture this because now the pawn is pinned to the rook. So this would be very problematic. However, Ben just takes here, giving Gibi a chance. And something very interesting happened in the game at this point. Gibi found the best move, by far the best move, which is a very surprising move. It's not capturing this pawn. It is not making some sort of developing logical move that would help aid in some attack that could come at some point. No, she castles, seemingly violating this principle of just castling with no building a castle with no walls, that's no real castle. But it is the strongest move. Because after takes, we see a coordinated attack here on this square. And now the early bishop move is paying dividends. And that is why, and I want you to try and remember this if you only remember one thing. Putting your pieces on good squares have value, even though it may not seem as if it does something concretely in the moment. Because if the piece is on a good square, if it controls the center, or if it attacks important or weak squares in the opponent's camp, then you can later leverage that advantage. So find the good squares where it seems as if the pieces are doing something. And don't be too concerned with what it means that they are doing something. Because as you play and play, you will slowly develop an intuition for these things. And intuition is extremely important. You don't want to use a lot of brain power playing chess, really. You just want to use your intuition. And in order to hone your intuition, you must just play. Play some games and accept that you will lose, and it'll be fine. And then your intuition will develop slowly, and you'll get better. And maybe Gibi's intuition said that this position was fine, but I think she was still intimidated, and she wasn't confident, even though I would be quite happy to have the white pieces in this position. The king is a little iffy, but you have 3 active pieces, and your opponent has 1 that's sort of badly placed. We see this check, and again the lack of sort of confidence seems to get Gibi, because her position is excellent, and the way she handled her first mistakes were very nice. But it's as if she sees, oh, I'm being checked, I'm under pressure, I should cave to the pressure, I should retreat, I should defend. But you know, sometimes the best defense is an attack, a counter-attack. And right here, she could have won the game. So, if you want to, I can just tell you the solution, or you can pause the video and see if you can find it yourself. So, I can tell you what it's about. It's about this knight. This knight is no longer defended because the bishop was defending it, and now the bishop moved. So can we attack this knight? Well, it would seem that we couldn't, but actually this guy is looking straight at him. But if we can't just move this because we're in check, so what do? Well, if we block the check like this, we suddenly have a completely winning game. This is a double attack because this guy attacks the knight, the hippity halls, as they said, and this guy attacks the bishop. Double attacks are extremely extremely powerful in chess, because you only have one move, and it can be very hard to defend against two threats in one move. Usually you'd need two moves to do that. It's kind of like how you win in tic-tac-toe, right? The only way to win in tic-tac-toe is to set up a situation where you threaten to put 3 in a row in 2 different ways, and your opponent can only stop one of them. Basically, chess is just a quite complicated version of that. If you look at this, you could say, okay, I'll just take, it's check, you still have to react to that, but I'll just take that, no problem. If you take here, take the knight, no problem. If you don't, if you try to save the knight by maybe going here, well, then I have them just spoiled for choice. Could just move this back because, you know, this guy's not even threatening anything, so I just want a free bishop. Or I could even go for some attacking ideas that I'm not going to show you right now, even though they are the strongest option, but they will be relevant later. Okay. Yeah, so let's look at what Gibi actually did after the check. She just moved her king because she was afraid, because maybe she thought she didn't really deserve to win the game. She was afraid somehow. I think basically Gibi would get way better at chess if she just started every game with the assumption that she was going to win. Then I think she would look for aggressive moves, and in her play she seems like a bright person, like there's no reason she wouldn't be able to find these moves. She finds when she needs to find a good defensive move, she can do that no problem. It's the aggressive moves that seems to be the problem. Okay, so she plays the king over here. Bit of a missed opportunity. And here about is about the last point in the game, where sort of the last chance she really gets. Because this knight move, they talk a lot about in the video, about how dangerous it is because it threatens, excuse me, get rid of the arrows, it threatens a check here, and that would, you know, check the king, and you could pick up the rook, and it's so dangerous. But in reality, it's a huge mistake that Ben played this move. Because this is check. And this is the reason that castling was a good idea. Let's go back here and see. So she castles here, putting her rook here, right? And this makes it into an active piece now. And that means that in this position it defends. Excuse me, that was what she did play. But had she played this, it would be defended. And the knight no longer here. When it was here, it could just take the bishop. But now it's over here, it can't take the bishop. And now Ben is in trouble. He actually has to go up here with the king. And now they both have exposed kings. And I actually think White is doing better, because let's say he goes here, you would develop your knight here, be ready to come in with another check, and just start being aggressive and threatening some checkmating ideas. And you had to go here, because if you go here, you can get in very big trouble. Let's say you try to escape. So white makes this move. It's a retreating move, but it opens up what is called a discovered check. A discovered check. And if the king tries something like going here, it actually it's game over. You go check. If you go down here, you can make another discovered check. Going here, it's check. You have to react to that somehow. You take that. It's check again. Take that. You have to recapture, and yeah, black just lost all of their pieces. So actually, black would have to go up here. And now, okay, remember that this guy is actually close to participating in the game. Just like when it could have threatened the knight earlier. So you just go here, and it's check. A discovered check from this one. You have to do something about it. Let's say you play something like this, and here you are just completely spoiled for choice. You could take this, you could go here, that would threaten a check there. Also, as soon as you move this knight is under attack from the queen. I mean, this position is very problematic for black. So definitely a bit of a missed opportunity. Let's go back and see what actually happened. So Gibi decided she needed to defend the situation. And she moved her rook here. And this is a move that I am unhappy with. Not because it doesn't solve the problem, but because it lacks self-respect. It lacks self-respect in a way. Now this rook's only purpose is to guard this pawn. But this pawn is just like a silly little pawn. This is a mighty rook. Like you are not you're not doing the power of this rook justice here, I feel. You can't push because you lose the exchange. The rook is better than the knight, so that would be beneficial for black. But you could maybe defend with the king here. So now the rook is relegated to just defending the pawn. And this is basically the start of the end. We see a pretty nice move here from Ben, preparing to advance this pawn. Now it would be defended. It's a nice standard idea, but I would basically just try to go for the kill. You could actually castle with the check instead. The rook would end here. It would be check. This square is super under pressure, so. But he did that, and then Gibi played this move, which is a nice, solid move. And if this rook would have been if this rook had just been over here, and this king had been here, taking care of the protection of this pawn right here, I would love this move here, because it does all the right things in principle. Defends your pawn in the center, opens up this nice bishop creates a strong pawn chain here that's hard to break down. It doesn't block any other piece. You can still get out with the knight. Could even get out this way with the knight if you wanted to. So, in principle, very nice move. But it has the problem that the attack just rages on here because the king is exposed. This pawn is not taken, and I think at this point Gibi has used most of her sort of brain juice, and I'm not saying that to be sort of sarcastic or play like in any way. That happens to all of us, and that is why we should try to make it easy for ourselves when we play chess. We should try to just trust our intuition. If our intuition is wrong, we lose, but our intuition automatically improves. That's the whole point of intuition. It is a part of your brain that can just do a lot of the work so that your consciousness does not have to do it. Because the consciousness, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I'm sure that you are enjoying your consciousness right now. Because when it's relaxed, it's so nice. But it's not very good at playing chess. The rest of your brain, excellent at playing chess. So just trust your intuition. Don't let your emotions run the game. Don't consider if you are feeling, oh, I am being attacked, or I'm playing a better person, or maybe if you are a girl, oh, I'm playing this guy, maybe he's intimidating, or maybe I'm playing, if you're young, you're playing somebody older, oh, they're probably so smart, or if you are, don't have a fancy education and you're playing somebody with a fancy education, you could be intimidated and your emotions will try to say, okay, you should back up, you shouldn't, and if you get something that maybe you think is a good idea, maybe you'll say, they probably already saw that. No, those emotional guidelines aren't worth anything. They're not made for playing chess, made from completely different things. So just trust your intuition and let it improve as you fail. And then you will improve as a chess player. In this position, Gibi played this move and it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because, you wanted to move this bishop out of the way it's attacked. But you do get tired, right? Get tired when you play chess. And you probably, if you played a bit of chess yourself, you probably had this experience where you had a feeling of what was going on and maybe it was even going pretty well. All of a sudden, everything looks sort of chaotic. You can't even really understand what's going on. What are the pieces doing? What's that piece doing? Was this guy even here before? Wasn't that on the other square? And you lose focus. And that's because chess is an extremely hard game. And if you play it with your emotions and your consciousness, you will wear yourself out in no time. And then you will miss the most obvious stuff. Ben also missed the obvious. Could just have captured the bishop. He captured here. He had a different plan. He wanted to exchange the queens. I guess it's fine. He keeps his advantage, but free bishop is a free bishop. bishop, attacking this bishop. Bishop moves back, and then the knight moves back. And I guess this was just about the last chance that Gibi got in this game. So this move is clever. It's a discovered attack, and I told you about the discovered ideas earlier. Because when the knight moves from this square, it is no longer blocking this. And Gibi misses that. That's basically the number one way to beat a beginner, is just to make a lot of discovered attacks. If you want to learn how to protect yourself from discovered attacks, well, my mantra is you have to make it easy for yourself. And the way you make it easy for yourself is don't look at your opponent's hand. If you look at the hand, you'll see the hand go pick up the knight. See it put the knight on this square. You will look at these two squares and you will look at the knight. But that is not important. The knight is not the important part of this equation at all. It's the bishop. So don't look at the hand. So she missed the tricky move from the devilish Ben. It's a nice move. It's a good little check here. Comes in with the knight. And in this position, Gibi could have played rook here, get it back to the active square. Also, when the knight is no longer attacking this one, there's no need to defend it. And here, the rook attacks the knight. It's active, it's doing something. And even though black has a bit of an advantage here, I would happily take white. You just need to solve the issue with the king. Get this knight in play. Find a way to get this rook in play. Could just go here. I'll have a nice open file. Can easily find some place to put the bishops. You have a nice game. No problem. No problem at all. Yeah, I think I would even prefer white, maybe. I think like black is technically better, stands better, but it's more to my liking, the sort of position of the white pieces. Anyways, Gibi lost her rook, had to retreat with the king. Ben moved in with the knight. And here I was so hoping that Ben would fall into Gibis trap here. She made a nice trap. Because she took this. This is actually part of an opening trap also, this pattern going on right here. Because if I was so hoping that Ben would take here, because then you could take here with the check, exploiting that this pawn is pinned to this rook by this rook, meaning that if you stop the check, you can take the rook. Boom. I was so hoping for that to happen. It didn't happen. Ben just left the pawn there. So it's still a small victory for Gibi because she captured a pawn for free. And actually this pawn played a role later on. Now the knight captures this pawn over here. Gibi playing a sensible move, putting her bishop on a more active square, and I think she was annoyed at this guy right here. Because it's sort of blocking her development. She wanted to capture that. problem is Ben saw that, or maybe he didn't, or he just got lucky, I don't know. Played this check with the knight, king moved, and he said, okay, I want to make another queen with these guys. It's a very sound idea. And Gibi took here. And the reason I say that maybe he didn't see how this was a really good move was because he didn't actually capture this immediately. He played this rook move first, which would have allowed Gibi to do something about the bishop. But she also missed it and took this pawn. So now the knight is free to take here. And she played c7, which is the best move by far in the game, by far in the position. And we have this theme in this game of Gibi not trusting herself. And I'm sure being one of the world's best and most successful ASM artists, and being like a smart, successful person, I'm sure she has loads of confidence in other areas, artistic and in her personal life. So this is not a knock on Gibi at all. I actually think she's amazing, and I think her work is some of the best ASMR that is basically the best ASMR I've ever seen. But her confidence in chess gets the better of her lack of confidence. Here, Ben played king here, and I think her lack of confidence made her trust her opponent a little bit. And they talked about, oh, when you play that, you can just capture me when I go down here. So, yeah, you got me, you figured out my plan. So she did go down here, not considering the more aggressive option of just capturing this knight over here, making her own knight. So it's check. Doesn't matter, she could have made a queen, whatever, but it's funny to have 3 knights on the board. That would have been a free knight. Of course it would be recaptured, but a knight for a pawn is a good trade. Okay, she instead made a queen here. That was just captured, and now she's just losing all her pieces basically. And this part of the game, here they were talking a lot. I think Ben got a little overexcited. I think he thought that this was going to be checkmate, and it wasn't. So Gibi played this, defends the threats and attacks the bishop. It's a nice move. And here this is a mistake, because it doesn't defend this guy here. Could just take that, and takes. And Gibi, although still in huge trouble, she would have won a free bishop there. Instead she goes here, and there's a trade. And now when the knight is no longer defending the pawn, Ben can just take it. Okay. Gibi goes for that one. It's defended. And you can see the quality of our hero, Gibi, the hero's moves have deteriorated when she got down material and when she was losing. Because you spend all your energy, all your brain juice, it's done. It's gone, and And you reach this, like when you get out of the opening in chess and the position transforms into something else, you'll sort of have to look at it with new eyes. And that's something that's very hard for the consciousness to do. The consciousness is nice, is good for prejudice. It's good to recognize things that are as they used to be. But in chess, positions can transform, and then they don't look as they used to be. Everything is different, and that can be very confusing if you're not playing on intuition. Basically, that's true in life as well sometimes. Maybe you've tried it in your own life. Your life circumstances changed, and all of a sudden it was not very hard to find good moves. King here, it's just a matter of finishing the game up. Ben makes a queen, and is going for checkmate. He has, like, for instance, this is checkmate in 1. He misses a lot of checkmates in 1, but it doesn't matter. Just in this sort of position, if you're winning by this much, just play the safe thing that you are sure will win. Check, 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 and checkmate. And the queen of ASMR has been checkmated. So I would absolutely love to see another game. I would love to see Gibi just assume she would win. Just play aggressive moves. If she was just more confident, she would win much more. I would love to see a video where she was just going for the attack and not reacting all the time. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed making it. Also because it meant researching by watching one of Gibi's videos, which is always a treat. And it was on chess. It's basically perfect in my book. So if you have been, thanks for watching. I wish you all a very happy 2021. I hope that it will be as awesome as 2020 was. Harsh. I love all of you guys. See you in the next video.